Another, of course, exciting announcement that's been out for a while now is the ability to construct documents, right? So not just extract values and understand documents, but actually be able to generate documents and use that whole engine, right, that powers that experience. Hi, everyone. My name's Richard Harbridge. I'm a Microsoft MVP, and I can't wait to talk to you guys about Microsoft Syntex and the evolution of SharePoint Syntex as we look forward. So lots to talk about here. I'll try to make it short and sweet, but if you've never heard of Syntex before, I certainly do encourage now is a great time to learn more about it, because its capability set, how it's being used, and the ways in which it's going to be leveraged within an organization have grown strategically and significantly. So with that, let's dive right into a bit of a discussion around key announcements or new changes. So again, Syntex has been around for a while. Before it was called Syntex, it was called Project Cortex. And one of the core capabilities it's had is this ability to do document understanding, document capture, both of those types of concepts where you extract data from a document, and you might use that data or that information in providing process automation or improving the way we search and find and manage those documents. And so you can see an example here where there's a number of different proposals that have been intaked, they've been ingested, and those proposals have just been uploaded, and a model has looked at those, read through them, kind of like a human would, and it's pulled information like the solicitation number, the total cost, things like that out of that proposal. So this is something that has been available for many customers, and many are using them today to do this in a very targeted, focused way, right? You pick a collection of information where you have a lot of this processing you need to do, and you offset with wonderful ROI benefits, you offset those costs and use something like Syntex. What's changing a little bit is that Syntex historically has been really a thing to use within a very targeted set of scenarios. Now we're starting to see Syntex flourish into a broader offering for organizations that are really looking to not just do document understanding and working with metadata and things like that, but actually to do content enrichment more broadly, to connect information, to provide a better and richer experience in that regard. And so there's some good examples of things that Microsoft's doing here. So one of the challenges with information is, even if we, evaluate it with models and we extract data points and things like that, often this information can come from multiple languages. So the challenge then, and it's a very real challenge, is how do we translate these documents? And of course, we can use machine translation. We can use those tools, which have gotten a lot better over the past decade, especially the last couple of years. And so using these tools that are in the box now with Syntex, we can do an auto detection of the language and then translate it to our preferred language, in this case English, which will translate those proposal documents. When that's done, those proposal documents are now in a folder called Translation English, and we can see the same documents, the same information, the same extracted values, right, from those documents, except if we were to open these documents up, they would have the text and language within it all translated, so it's easier to consume from an English perspective. And so this is a really big benefit. Now, you could say, yes, this type of tooling has been in the marketplace for a while. There are great vendors out there who've been providing solutions like this, Pointfire and others. But what's changing is that now these tools are more robust. They're more intelligently designed within the core experience, right? If you're applying models, that makes total sense. That content has a lot of value. So doing translations makes sense on that. Being able to target and use this to target translations on key content that you need to, drive quick communication around, coordination around, to evaluate faster. These are all things that are huge benefits without Azure, right? I'm not saying it's not using Azure on the back end, but you don't need to spin up some complex service. It's, a couple clicks and you're good to go. And so that accessibility of these is another big driver. Another huge value proposition, and I think we're just getting started here, is things like summaries. So of course, Microsoft has been indexing content within Microsoft 365, and the Microsoft search experience is just amazing in how it intelligently thinks about the content and provides and recommends that content to you in a very intelligent ways, both in the experiences and then when you do an active search. But you also have this challenge where a lot of times we have these really long documents, and this is a great example. These proposals, right? These invitations or RFPs and things like that, they have huge, sometimes 30, 50, 60 pages, etc., or even in this example, even 12 pages, might take too long for you to evaluate just on its surface. So being able to pull and extract key elements of it and be able to understand those at a glance is very, very helpful. This, of course, helps with search scenarios, but most importantly, it really helps us with getting a bit more time back so we can focus on the content within these documents that matters most. And so while this is, I think, a relatively early stage of the file summaries, I've been actually pretty surprised at how this is performed in a lot of the environments where we've been using Syntex, to further process and automate these documents, because there's almost always this reader element to it. And if we can, kind of combine some of these things, especially if we can tune that summarization over time, I think there's a lot of potential here. So again, great that Microsoft's going to continue to enhance that files experience. If you don't know this, a lot of summarization and extraction is already happening. If you go to a document library anywhere in SharePoint today and you hover over a file, you actually see that it pulls out insights. How long might it take to read this document, or what information is within it. So again, it's not like this is a new concept. What we're seeing is Syntex providing sort of a premium capability that takes it a little bit further with these well-designed summaries. Another, of course, exciting announcement that's been out for a while now is the ability to construct documents, right? So not just extract understanding, extract values and understand documents, but actually be able to generate documents and use that whole engine, right, that powers that experience. And a lot of people don't quite understand why this is very valuable. So think of it like this. You already did things like extract and identify the names of people and, the accounts or clients and things like that. Well, imagine if that extraction and constant creation of those records could be done automatically. So you don't go and manage, a repo of customer name and all this information around it. That information is extracted, right, from the customer sharing documents with you where that information is pulled out. And that essentially means that it's a more up-to-date record set. It's certainly a lot more accessible. It didn't require manual effort for you to manage, to add to it. It's constantly being evolved, that data set, right, that we're pulling from. And so being able to select a contact here and then have all these other pieces of information automatically, strewn throughout the document is a benefit, sure, Syntex provides. But again, the underpinnings of all of this is really where the value from Syntex comes from. It's that idea that, behind the scenes, we have a more intelligent way of managing data points that we're using to generate those documents, not just that we can generate the documents based on those data points, although that is, of course, exciting as well. One of the things I really thought was an easy thing to miss is that Syntex is also evolving in the way that it uses those document sort of generation and connection capabilities. So as an example, one of the things I do a lot is I have to combine documents. I do this a lot for proposals and things that I write. And so when I do that today, it's a pretty manual process. I use a lot of Adobe tooling, etc. Now you see an example here where merging, the document becomes a lot easier to do. And so again, could you have done something like this with these types of generations and things like that? Sure, I could have done things like that, but now having that, as a really seamless and easy built-in process is a really big win. The fact that it has a nice interface is sort of icing on the cake. And another big change from Microsoft, and of course, if you use DocuSign, you like Adobe. Adobe has a really great integration with Microsoft 365, more broadly speaking. If you like those tools, you can keep using them. But it's really nice that if you already bought and invested in a tool that's doing document understanding, document processing, it's directly supporting your process automation, which is, of course, often driven with Power Automate and things like that. Wouldn't it be great if we could have an email signature tool built in that connects with all that? And that's what Syntex essentially is providing. So that's a really huge benefit as well. It's, as you'd expect, it's the ability for me to create a signature, choose where to put it within the document, be able to track that, to have that from an auditability perspective. All the things that you would expect for compliance are all going to be in there. So again, a really nice way to have a sort of a complete system experience where the suite provides the various elements we need. And again, if you want to go outside of that for whatever reason, you still can, but this really simplifies things. The amount of effort required to use these other email signature tools is, relatively easy once we've done it a few times, when we, kind of taught people and we've done train the trainer and we've done that, but it's still a bit clunky. And so it's really nice that this is going to be much more robust and rich, built in to where you'd expect to use it, right, into the Office experiences themselves. So I really liked that call out. And really what this is signaling is that Syntex is kind of growing up from SharePoint, right? Because some of these scenarios like e-signatures or scenarios where we do translation, I mean, you could argue translations, content services, SharePoint still content services. What we're seeing where, this is really stretching beyond, your traditional capabilities for something like SharePoint and content services, and we're really getting into enhancing and connecting on the content we work on. And I think, where we start to get into this space, it creates a really exciting picture for what next year might look like as Microsoft continues to evolve these roadmaps. So I hope this has been helpful for you. I'm very, very excited about this change. I think it's been a long time coming. I'm happy that now we just can call it Syntex. We don't need to, say SharePoint Syntex, formerly, Microsoft Project Cortex. There's some great capabilities there. And if you've never seen some of these, maybe that might inspire you to play with it or reach out if there's something I can do to help. Anyways, an absolute pleasure. Hope this has helped you.